Welcome to the Fennell Shooting Podcast. Fueled by Fiocchi, the industry standard that champions trust. If you're a clay target shooter, then we have something for you. Speaking with some of the best in the industry about the game you're passionate about. Follow us at the Clay Lab on YouTube and Spotify. The Fennell Podcast is also brought to you by the Clay Lab, Ranger, Krieghoff International, Briley Manufacturing, Long Range, Rainier Shotgun Sports, Mech Outdoors, Greenwood Custom Stocks, Electronic Shooters Protection, and Westside Sporting Grounds. Here's your host, Will Fennell of the Fennell Shooting School.
Well, hello, everybody, and Happy New Year. This is Will Fennell from the Fennell Shooting School Podcast. Got my good buddy Jim Greenwood on. Seems like just the other day you were here, Jim.
A little over a week ago. No.
We got a lot of stuff in while you're here, doing 14 pattern stocks. Wow.
Yeah, they're over 2 weeks. Yeah. It's a busy
So,
time.
watching you work, Jim, it dawned on me that your pattern stocks have a certain style to them. When people see a stock over there in the gun rack, a lot of folks that have been around for a while, they recognize it as yours. You kind of have a certain style to your theory on what a stock should be like. Don't see a lot of Monte Carlo cones. Don't see a lot of real swept back pistol grips. Just give me a little primer on why your stocks are designed the way they're designed.
Well, I guess part of it comes up from my training and upbringing, but as to the Monte Carlo, if a guy has a long neck or comes in, normally my patterns start out big enough so I can go to a Monte Carlo if I think it needs it. But just watch when we start in, getting the guy mounting the stock, getting everything set up, watching the heel position on their shoulder. Once I start figuring that out, then I dictates whether we need a Monte Carlo or not. Most people I don't think do, because I want to keep the heel in a good position on their shoulder, high enough where it's not going to slip down, but not up above our shoulder where we're not utilizing the whole pad. So that's where a lot of that comes in from doing just how it starts setting up there. I do a few Monte Carlos, but it is rare for me to do one.
Yeah, I can't remember the last one.
And then grip-wise, that's where I start setting everything up, just getting the trigger and finger position together so the shooter has good trigger control up on the trigger where they want to be, and then start setting the grip, the curve, the palm swell, everything kind of flowing together off of that to utilize getting our wrist in the right position so we're not straining the wrist, not straining the elbow, shoulder, so everything can be relaxed through that whole area, coming into our grip, coming into the trigger placement, fingers placement on the trigger, etc. So it just dictates that curve then on how open I want it to be, to watching the fingers placed on the grip, whether they're compressed too much or relieved. And then the depth of the grip, making sure there's enough curve in the grip to get the whole hand on there, that the bottom finger isn't hanging off the edge of the grip. And then just bringing and trimming that back up into line so the whole hand is on the grip to control the gun. So they don't have the death grip on it to hang on to it, but it fills the hand, everything comfortable, wrist comfortable, helps in shooting to be more consistent, bringing the gun up, everything along that.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm always key on, or always catch, or however you want to phrase that, but I always notice is folks who usually the grip doesn't fit them, or they learned at a young age with a gun that was too big in the grip for them.
Yeah.
Couldn't reach the trigger, so they kind of get up on top of the grip, choke up to reach the trigger. And that really impedes your mount, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, because it may feel good in a low gun position, but when you start bringing it up to the shoulder, now the shoulder has to come up, the elbow has to come up, everything has to come up way high and start binding in everything in the mount process, so then it's harder to get the gun high enough in the shoulder without binding and struggling being consistent. So just trying to get their hand more relaxed down in there so when they bring it up that the wrist is pretty straight, more comfortable all lined up there, and then still able to reach the trigger fine. So I try and leave enough on the inside of the grip curve where we can adjust that along with the palm swell so they're not stretched out too far for the trigger, and then not too far back either. So, most of the guns anymore have adjustable triggers where we can move them back and forth. There's a few that don't. And when the ones that are adjustable, I try and set it up with the trigger in the middle position, so we always have a little bit of room to play. But just trying to get everything lined up and comfortable if they like it on the pad. So I always try and watch where their finger is, that it's comfortable for them. They're not trying to adjust or move around, and even do a lot of that while we go shoot to see where they're comfortable with their finger on the trigger, and keep making adjustments if we have to in the process as we go.
Yeah, I tell you, folks, watching Jim do 14 pattern stocks a couple weeks ago, and you follow his lead and let him build the grip area the way you need it and the way he wants to build it. Gun mount from, say, a FITAS hold position becomes infinitely easier for most people. Getting that wrist straight is can't be overstated. And it just allows the gun to come to the face with so little effort that suddenly low gun's not a scary thing anymore to a lot of people.
Yeah, because a lot of them come in, I can't shoot low gun. It's like, well, if everything else is dialed in and that helps, and then we get set the comb, all that, it's so much easier to shoot low gun, so it should come up to the same spot every time and easier to bring to the face for the mount, everything to happen consistently and in time everywhere.
Yep. Jim, is there any other things that you see frequently off in fit that you're able to address? Pitch or
pitch is still dictated a lot by
stance or
on how they stand. If they stand upright, if they lean forward into it. So just trying to get the whole face of the pad on our shoulder to spread recoil out, so the top isn't biting on their collarbone, the toe isn't digging in where it lets the gun rock and tip back and forth. So just experimenting in that. A lot of that I do experimenting as we're setting up the grip and start setting the comb up, start adjusting our length and our pitch angle, and watching the person shoot and making those tweaks as we see them shoot, and how their stance and everything is as we go along, but getting that all lined up and coordinated all together. So it all, not just setting the grip, but once we get the grip set, everything starts flowing back from that and working together from the comb nose position to the thumb flute, to the comb, to the cast, to the length pitch, that it all starts flowing together, and just not random numbers we're trying to throw out here to get something set, that it all flows together and get to the right place.
It can't be overstated. I tell you, once you have a stock fitted like by Jim or like that, so many things become so much less effort that you can stay focused on the bird, because you're not trying to squiggle your face into the gun to get lined up just right and that kind of thing. It's amazing to watch you work on that process.
Yeah, and people say they see my grip stand out, and it's interesting because I did not go into setting my grips up to be, okay, I want this to stand out. It's just how I see a grip looking and like the looks of that style, and start building them that way where hand everything is right, and just happened to be kind of a signature without trying to be a signature on one of my stocks, I guess.
Wow, Jim, we did 2 solid weeks of pattern stocks.
Yeah.
A lot of people, some people might not be familiar with that process. So kind of talk people through how you end up with a Jim Greenwood stock, how you start with a pattern stock, and then eventually you can upgrade it to a final stock, and how that process works, Jim.
So pattern stock is, I just have a blank inlet. I need to know what gun you're shooting, right or left-handed, rib height. And then I have a blank inletted ready for us when you show up, and get that set up on the receiver, and then start shaping grip down, comb height, everything. So we're going to spend a day shaping everything in to fit you, shooting it during the process. The basic 2 different patterns I basically do is a basic pattern. I call it just standard, real basic wood. Or we can go to upgraded wood, which is just fancier wood. It's all the same process we're going to go through. It's just a difference in wood quality.
It's all walnut, though.
Yes. Yeah. The basic patterns are either American walnut, or I do have a few pieces of plain Turkish that I'm working with now too, but it's just really plain, not much bigger in the wood. They're going to be structurally sound, good and solid. It's just the quality of the wood.
Kind of like a standard grade Perazzi stock.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. So even if you go upgraded, then it's still, I put all the same time, effort into it to get everything set up, dialed in. We'll have it all shaped out, sanded, some basic finish on it, a new pad, we'll balance it. And at the end of the day, you have a stock that you can take home and shoot. So you're not waiting a year, 6 months, whatever, for a final stock to get done. You're able to take a gun home with you that day and start shooting, starting to get the feel, learning curve with that new stock, so you can start right in and start making that and start going with.
Yeah, folks, it's an amazing process. You literally, like when Jim's at my house or at the Fennell Shooting School, we start at 9 o'clock, and usually you're shooting your first couple shots with it on the pattern plate by 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning.
10:30. Yep. So we've got the grip roughed in and comb height. I'm trying to get, once I have the grip and comb height set, the rest of it are making it look like a stock. So those are the critical dimensions. Once we can get those set with our length and pitch, then it's all just trimming extra wood off, making it look like a stock. So we're going to start shooting it early so we can see the tweaks and final comb height and cast tweaks and length or pitch tweaks we need to make as we're through that, and then make some tweaks to it. Then we'll go shoot a few targets, and then we can start just getting rid of all the extra wood all the time, keep slimming it down, making it feel better all the time. Then I sand it all out. Like I said, get the finish on, then pad and balance, and then we're going to go shoot it a little bit more, making sure everything still feels right. The hand is in the right position, balance now, so we have a stock that you're ready to go home and start working with.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, 10:30, you shoot your first few shots. After that, you're back and forth from Jim's shop across the way to the range, shoot a few, go back in, carve some more, shoot a few. And by Jim, 3:30 or so, usually Jim's applying spray can finish on it. And it's not checkered, it's not final sanded, but it's something that you can shoot for years if need be.
Yeah, I've got customers shooting them for 7, 8, 9 years and just stayed with pattern. Some go on to final, so there's all different levels.
So, now that you fall in love with it and you love the dimensions and you're sure this is it, you can buy a piece of wood from Jim, and he duplicates it in a pantograph duplicator. It looks like a giant key machine to me. And do a final stock with a final beautiful checkered custom grip cap, all the cool stuff, but you're still shooting your gun. I mean, you don't have to be without your gun for long periods of time. Yep. And it's an amazing process. It really is.
So I have most of the receivers in. There's a few that I don't have, but most of the receivers, if somebody calls and wants a pattern stock, I can have all the inletting work done before they get here. So I normally have anywhere from 2 to 3 hours before the customer arrives, getting everything lined up. That is just tedious work that they're not involved anything in. So I have all that work done. So once they arrive, we can start working directly with them in the critical areas that I need them for.
Sure.
And go that way.
So Jim, as of January 2025, kind of go over the basic pricing of this stuff?
Yeah, so in my shop here, basic pattern is $2,500.
That's a butt stock only.
Upgraded wood, really nice Turkish walnut. Most of them come out very, very well. Is another $1,500 for the price of the wood. So you end up with $4,000 in an upgraded pattern, $2,500 in the basic pattern.
And if you do this process off-site, like when you come to my place, it's $3,000 for the basic pattern.
Right. Yeah, it's $500 more to cover travel expenses.
If you're at the Nationals or something like that.
Else. Yeah, just to cover all extra expenses.
And then when you get ready to do a final, you pick out the wood, which might be anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000.
Yeah, I got
$2,000 to $4,000.
Yeah, $1,500. The $400 to $4,500. I got just got some really nice wood in.
Inside baseball, if everybody doesn't know this, Jim has a wood buying problem.
Yes, very bad.
If there's a piece of wood, he's going to buy it and stick it away. He's got lots of wood. He's got lots of wood. So then somebody picks out that piece of wood. Let's say it's $2,500. And then it's how much more to finish that out? Do the checkering, the pad, and the finish and everything?
I'm at $6,000 labor on a final stock, but stock end, fore-end, finish, checkered, everything.
Okay. So there you go, folks. You got an idea. I tell you, one of the things that always blows my mind, Jim, is people will buy one of these adjustable aftermarket stocks. I don't know if I need to name names, but they're what, $2,000, and they could just come to you $2,500 and just build a pattern stock and have a real stock that really fits.
Yep.
So I'm a big fan of this process. Any of my students that are serious about the game, or if they're extremely on the small side of the scale or the big side of the scale, the further you are away from the average size guy in Italy, the more you need custom fitting. And I'm a big fan of this.
Especially large guys come in and go, I said, well, I know the stock doesn't fit you. They look at me, why? I'm like, where do you go buy anything off the rack or normal that fits you? So what makes you think the get stock off the rack should fit you as well? So yeah. I mean, your hand hangs off the bottom of the grip. You can't reach the trigger properly. You're hunched up on the gun. So some of those get to be a little bit of a challenge to try when you start getting the dimensions right, to let their hand sit in the proper position, because they're so used to being crunched up and not fitting right. So it's trying to let it come out and then get the length and the comb and everything else flowing right, where they can start mounting it and going, oh, this is how it should feel, just making it come together. And then vice versa, have small hands, short fingers, different things. It's like, okay, we got to make it where you can hang on the grip properly and still reach the trigger without having to slide your hand up and go to different and contort around where to get it to set up and get the length where your head's able to be in a good position and be able to mount properly without all stretched out, everything else. So it goes both ways.
Sure. So again, big fan of this process. I can't say enough good stuff about it. So Jim, when people start thinking about doing a pattern stock and then a final stock, they really kind of need to have done a little bit of homework, right? What's your long-term gun's going to be?
Yeah, that gun-wise, rib-wise, everything. Because we start in and do this, and in 6 months you decide you're going to change rib height or go to a different gun, this doesn't just transfer over that easy, especially gun make. I can't make a Perazzi stock fit on a Krieghoff or any of that. So we have to decide, make sure you know that this is something you're going to stick with, and happy with the barrels, that everything's working and shooting right before we start on the stock. And then we can always work that in, whether junior shooter. I get a lot of questions about junior shooters. Normally, as they grow, we're going to need to lengthen the stock, and most of the time, lower the stock slightly. So it's always on a pattern is always easy for junior shooters to keep making adjustments as we go on the pattern as well, till they kind of get to the age where I think they're done growing or pretty well situated, that can either finish the pattern or go to a final. So I've never hesitant saying, they're too young to do this. As long as they have a good basis, it's always easy to do and still set up a stock correctly for them.
Yeah, I mean, I've just watched a couple people, students in some cases, that have gotten frustrated, but caught by surprise when maybe they've done a pattern stock for a Krieghoff Pro Sporter with a real high rib, and then they see the light and they decide they really want to shoot a parkour. Well, they think, well, you just lower the cone down to match, but that kind of messes up all your other lines and stuff, right?
Yeah, because the heel height may be wrong, what it was set up for that. So, and then you just can't lower the heel, because now all of a sudden the butt of the gun becomes too narrow. So it's just not a matter sometimes of lowering the cone, going from a high rib to a low rib. There's several other things to take into consideration. Of course, it's always easier to make those adjustments and tweaks on a pattern. Tougher when people bring them back as a final and go to adjust this. It's like, okay, now we got more problems to deal with here.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's just something for people to kind of keep in mind. I mean, I always tell students, like, is this your forever gun? Is this the grail gun you've been thinking about? And, you're happy with your DT11 or your Perazzi or your Krakoff or whichever way you're going. There's plenty of good guns out there, but kind of get a style of gun you like and get a brand you like before you start too far down this road.
Yeah, and always have questions. People bring me Krieghoff. Well, I want to upgrade to a Krieghoff. And that's no problem upgrading the receiver because the receiver and everything's still going to fit. It's just when you upgrade the receiver, keep the same barrels, which we've been working, and rib combination. So
Sure.
Then that's always easy to make the transition trade over for.
And Jim, one of the most exciting things for me, in addition to all we've just talked about with your fitting, and I feel like I've had a little small part of it, mainly just because I maybe helped bring you and Dr. Colo together, is gun fitting with regard to eye dominance. And when we got somebody who's maybe not fully right eye dominant or not fully left eye dominant, their dominance position somewhere is in the middle, you've been able to do amazing things to help people.
Yeah, so just trying to figure where their eye dominance is, to relationship if they're wearing a patch, not wearing a patch, don't want to wear a patch, trying to just sort out between, it basically comes down to comb height and cast, working together with both of those to get the eye dominance so we can use both eyes together, working down the rib so everything's working properly for them. They're not trying to cant their head or see around things. So sometimes it's a challenge to just help the client through it as well because of what they're used to seeing is according to what we need to be seeing and how everything is going to relate. And then just trying to utilize it and tell a lot more by actually being able to shoot the gun then and utilize and see where impact points are and see how they're able to use their eyes together, work through all of that I think it's hard to do a lot of that without actually putting the gun to use so we can see what's happening, not only watching them mount it, but then actually shooting targets and get the feedback from the shooter and what they're able to see and be able to use both eyes so we get our peripheral, our depth perception, get everything off of that and watch impact points on targets and what they can do with everything that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about, and no need to throw his name out there, but somebody from the industry we had in for a pattern stock on this last trip who'd been shooting for decades with a big old patch on over his left eye. And through good fitting and a bit of instruction, we got the patch off and he was just hammering targets by the time he left.
Yeah, and he was happy to be able to get the patch off just to, some people can shoot with a patch, some people it really bothers. So just trying to make it the best we can to utilize the eyes the best we can to get our impact points and the mount right so they can utilize both eyes properly.
Yep. That's something that subject right there is big, and we need to flesh that out probably more with the podcast with you and Dr. Colo on. So we'll get into that more. I mean, I've seen you do it before, but this was just the classic case. This guy we just worked with, and the impact it made on him was truly amazing. I mean, I've never seen somebody who'd been shooting for so long have a turnaround and be so much happier with his shooting.
And it helped in the situation we're at because then after we did the pattern, he's able to take a day of lessons with Will too to really help sink that in and get him trusting everything. Going through it is a big help when we go out to Will's to be able to do stuff like that several of the people stay over and take a lesson then with their new stock to start getting them acclimated to it and learning to trust it and everything else all in the process.
Yeah, and what works out good here when you do that is Jim's still just 20 yards away working on somebody else's pattern stock, and if the student and I shoot for 3 or 4 hours or something, and suddenly there's a little discomfort somewhere, or you got a question, or you might think about changing something, we can still walk over there and see Jim. It's not like you've flown back to Pennsylvania from Kansas, and it gives you a little more chance to shoot it a bit more and ask any other questions you have with Jim. It always makes people feel good to do that. Going into this season, are you going to any real changes? I think you mentioned you're not going to go on the road with the trailer quite as much. Or
No, I'm going to hopefully get caught up in the shop around here a little bit and have quite a few dates already booked in this coming year going forward with people coming in for patterns. So try and stick around and get all that done. And with the open early in the year and a few shoots going on. So just going to try and, I think, stay at home and try and get caught up that way a little bit.
Yeah. Speaking of a few shoots, we got the Greenwood Invitational coming up.
Yep. Jared's been helping a lot on that and trying to get everything gone through between the venue at Flint Oak and the other hotel we have. I've stopped by and seen that facility, which is unreal. But then Jared and I will be starting this spring, laying out parkours, getting everything lined up. We're not scrambling too bad at the end, trying to get everything lined up and where we want to be set up.
Yeah, folks. So this Greenwood Invitational is a shoot. Jim decided he wanted to pay back to his customers, putting on a tournament the way he'd like to have a tournament put on. And it's at a very special venue. It's at Flint Oak in Kansas, one of the prettiest places I've ever shot in my life. Jim and Jared are setting the target. It's going to be 200 FITAS, 2 separate 100 bird sporting events, I believe. But it's an invitational. You have to be shooting a Jim Greenwood stock. Anything else you want to elaborate on that process, Jim?
Yeah, it can be a pattern stock, final stock, just something that I have finished and done. Like I said, either just the pattern from me going through it or one of the final stocks I've done. I don't have to personally invite you. It's all on Score Chaser. You can go to Score Chaser and send an email in to the link there. And then we confirm. My son Jared is doing most of it, but to confirm the stock that everything is copacetic and you're all good to go, he will give you the link then to sign up and we can keep everything going. I think we're about half full with registrations right now. And we're booking all the rooms. I don't know if there's rooms left on property, but like I said, I have a very new, very exclusive hotel. It's about 25 minutes away, all reserved. It's a great location, great place, real quiet. It's brand new. It's going to be very nice as well. So it's not too far away that people can stay. I have all my judges lined up staying over there. So just have a very good group of judges coming in, FITAS judges and referees from around the country.
You've got some of the best referees or the best referees in the country coming.
Yeah, so they committed to me early.
This is not just going to be a fun shoot. This is a serious event with the 200 bird FITAS. Will have all the certified referees. Probably most of them are internationally certified. And Flint Oak is just one of the most gorgeous places I've ever shot. It's not, you won't think you're in Kansas, or at least not what I thought Kansas was going to be like. It's hilly and terrain and lakes and ponds and tree lines and
big draws, just throw targets below your feet, up above our head. Just a lot to work with. Like I said, it's going to be a challenge for Jared and me to figure out where to lay 8 parkours out that halfway flow together without running you all over the property.
Yeah, because it's a huge property, correct?
Yeah, 35 miles of gravel roads on property, so we can send you all over the place, but trying to keep it all flowing together.
And then the sporting course will utilize their signature tower, correct?
Yes, on Friday's sporting course, they have 140, 150-foot tower from the 4 machines on top of it, so we're going to utilize that. They're building some new stations in the process right now on the old course that they've had, so it's some shots over the water, targets out of an old silo, so we'll have Friday's course there. We're going to do it old style where you're going to walk it. It's a really short course around and really tight, so people can park their carts and we'll have put carts and people can walk that course. It'll be kind of unique. Flint Oak's old course, been there since in the east. There's bronzes at most of the stations. There's concrete benches. It's what they use for their corporate deal. We're going to set up some good targets on that as well for Friday. The Saturday sporting course, we're going out on the preserve and set up. I think Jared has 15-station course we're going to set up out there and shoot all new targets on Saturday.
And that'll be utilizing carts on that, correct?
Yeah, because it'll be quite a way.
Yeah, and the FITAS will definitely use carts because it's you're taking advantage of some of the best places scattered over those thousands of acres. It's going to be quite spectacular.
Yeah, to find the right draws and some ponds and some flat areas, big trees. They've done a lot of clearing in the past over there to hunting preserve, so clearing hunting lanes and food plots, everything. So there's a lot of open areas, but with still lots of timber, though, to utilize. So I think it's a very challenging place, a good place to be able to set targets and do something.
It's a special chance to get to go there because they don't do a lot of big tournaments because it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere a little bit. But man, the time I shot there before, I was really impressed.
Yeah, it's
and they do things right. It's got a full restaurant, high-end restaurant on the property, and lodging and bar and.
Yeah, so it's all, the meals will be great. They got a first-class chef, so all the meals, everything are first class there. I don't know of a better place to try and do it.
Well, folks, don't be intimidated by signing up about the approval. You just go on Score Chaser. You're going to end up sending an email and corresponding with Jared, and then you sign right up. It'll be quite
we got all classes of shooters coming, so don't worry that if you're a new shooter or haven't been or shot much FITAS, we got all different levels. So just as long as you worked with me and you got one of my stocks, hopefully it'll be a good time. Everybody get together. I'm going to try and put a little bit of array together of stocks I've made through the 39 to 40 years I've been doing this, so people can see a little bit of how it's transformed over the years. Just hard finding some stuff from the early 90s, late 80s and early 90s, trying to track some of those projects down that I did, but trying to get some stuff throughout the different times to show people and see what all I've produced through the year.
Yeah. Probably don't let the cat out of the bag too far because the project's not done yet. Got some pretty special trophies we're working on.
Yeah, working with a custom knife maker to build me some custom knives using the wood handle or wood scales from some of the knife cut-off stock. So a little bit of special there and working on some different prototypes and different drawings right now to get some custom knives made that way for it.
That will be super cool. Super cool.
Yeah.
So
trying to make it special that way.
Yeah. Really looking forward to it, Jim. It's going to be a great shoot. And I really appreciate you putting something like this on. It's that's truly appreciating your customers when you go to all the effort that you're going through to do this.
Yeah, it's going to be, like I said, doing old style 8-part cores over the 3 days. We can handle doing that. Can handle 144 shooters. So should be a good group if we can get a good number of those fill the spots up and be able to intermingle with people from all over the country, hopefully.
Yep. Looking forward to it. Any other questions, folks? If you know me, you can reach out to me. I can try to fill you in. But the best thing to do is go straight to Score Chaser and start the process there.
Yeah, because it's June 6th through the 8th. So pretty on the weather.
We talked about that. Yeah, June 6th through 8th.
Weather should be really good in Kansas. May get a little rain, but normally the weather's really good. High 80s, low 90s, good daylight. So I'll be able to set some good stuff and have a good time.
Excellent. Look forward to it, and really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, Will. All right, thanks.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us. Remember to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify to the Clay Lab. That way you never miss an episode. We'll catch you here next time on the Fennell Podcast.